Alright you lot, don't forget to give us a follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and while you're at it, give us a 5-star rating. Trust me, it really does help us out.
I always say that my career has been right place, right time, right skills. So a little bit of luck, a little bit of searching out, actually kind of hunting down what it was that I really liked to do. And then kind of proving myself in those positions and being able to create opportunities for myself. So I actually started my motorsport career at Autosport, which is pretty mad. Like full circle, very neat kind of full circle story of coming back into the fold. But I was in sales, right? So nothing to do with content creation, nothing to do with writing anything for the magazine. It was like the really small like adverts you'd get at the back of magazines. Mm-hmm. It was my job to go out and sell them to like trailer companies and like race schools and things like that. Like people that were, you know, spending like 250 quid on an advert. That was my
So is
job.
that about how much that kind of advert would cost in the back of a
well, yeah,
magazine,
back then, what we're talking about, 2015. And then I kind of progressed up to selling the annoying banner ads that you get on websites.
Oh.
You know, the ones that you're always trying to click on the next, and like, that was me.
Yeah, like, move the web page a little bit and click on them by accident. Oh, good stuff.
That was me. So yeah, so it was a mixture of things. Yeah, genuinely everybody's most hated person ever, including editorial. Like editorial, whenever you would come to them with like, I've got a client, they'd literally be like, well, how are they going to ruin our thing now? No, but I always used to try and like, I think that was the first point, because what I really enjoyed was being creative with clients and coming up with things I actually felt like the audience is going to appreciate this. Like, it's still going to be an ad, right? They're still trying to sell you something, but thinking about like, actually, how would this help Autosport? So one of the biggest things I put together, not to dwell on sales too much, but we got a client to give away Autosport Plus for free for 2 weeks. Mm. So it was like, this is actually massive benefit to users that maybe don't subscribe to the premium side of the product. It means that they get a lot of branding on everything. And it felt like a really kind of feel-good thing. And it was the first time that Autosport had ever done anything like that before. So I think I'd always had this thing in my head of like, why not? Let's try it. Like, that would be awesome. Like, this could actually have a real big kickback. And I think it's always been that kind of thing that I've been really attracted to, like being first to market with things or thinking outside the box. And at that point as well was the time when like F1 was such a closed shop. Yeah. No access, no social media. You know, Bernie Eccleston had kind of made it into this very elite product. It didn't want to open its doors to every person. It wanted it to be for a select group of people. That he always said, you know, I'm only interested in people that are going to buy a Rolex.
Literally.
I'm not interested in like...
It's mad.
Right?
It's just not a sustainable way.
Absolutely not. So I suggested, I was like, there's this thing called social media. And actually, to the same point, it wasn't just me thinking this would be amazing for fans, even though that was kind of the core reason. Like, a load of my clients were asking, what are you doing on social media? Like, we're starting to plan like social media activations. And so I was actually losing out money. So there was a little bit of like a personal, like, wait, I want to be making my commission. What are we doing on social media? But also, actually, we could open this sport up to so many more people and no one else is doing it other than WTF1.
Yeah.
So I left Autosport after a year of working there in what would arguably have been like, at that point, my dream job. Like, I got to talk about Formula One all day, and I was only, recently out of uni. But then I jumped ship, and I was like, I need to get into this social media business because this is going to be massive.
And this is an industry that didn't exist 15 years ago.
Like, you had I think this was kind of the time that you'd have like your lab Bibles starting, and you had a few people kind of using Facebook. It was back when Facebook was a thing, right? That's not how long we're talking about.
Facebook.
Like, most people watch this show are probably going to be like, what's Facebook? But yeah, it was kind of around that time that brands were probably starting to use it. It wasn't just, you posting your 150 photos from your holiday to Menorca. It was like, actually, we're going to entertain. Yeah. So I left and went to a social media publisher, which was a startup. I think there was about 19 people when I joined. I was one of the first salespeople that they brought in to try and commercialize the product. And this was at a place called Car Throttle. And so it was all about cars, which I still had an interest in, but it wasn't motorsport. And it was around the time, like, the CEO had said to me, like, there's a link to motorsport here. I know that you like motorsport. If you see any brands that are big in this market, like we'd be interested in acquiring them. And at that point, I didn't mention WTF1 because I thought, and this is something that people ask me for advice about, what would you tell younger people when they're starting out? Trust your gut and don't think just because you're young or you aren't that experienced or you haven't been in the industry that long that your opinion is lesser than the other people above you, because actually you will spot things that maybe they haven't. So I didn't mention WTF1. And then it got about, I don't know, a few months down the line, and I mentioned it to the CEO and he went, that's really funny because we're about to buy them. So, it turned out that my thinking was on the right lines. So it wasn't for me that the brand got bought into the company and we had Tommy join us, but the thinking was definitely there. So then just kind of wanted to work my way over because I was still mainly on car throttle, and I was like, this WTF1's going to change the game.
Yeah.
Right? This is going to change the entire face of motorsport media. And I believe that so wholeheartedly. I want to take it from where it is now, which was pretty decent numbers at that point.
Oh yeah,
Most people
Tommy
had heard
absolutely
it.
killed it to get it to where it was.
Huge, hugely well done. I was like, nah, I want to take it from fan account to actual motorsport media, game changer. We should be working with teams, drivers, everything. I was like, that's going to be my focus. And so, after a lot of persuasion and almost getting fired, I got to move across and help Tommy run things over on WTF1. So did that for a few years. And obviously, they're quite successful.
Yeah.
They did all right.
Okay.
They did all right.
Doing all right.
They did all
Not
right.
bad.
And then I got asked to come back into the Autosport fold and basically do all the things I'd said I wanted to do in 2015 in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. So that was fun.
I mean, I can imagine.
Yeah. So that's
Not
kind of
ideal.
whistle-stop tour of my
So when you went to WTF1, what was the
Yeah.
kind of first, in terms of the brands that you were reaching out to and brands you got part? Did you remember the first kind of successful brand? Because again, taking WTF1 from, like you said, a fan platform to an actual media company. Do you remember what the first one was that converted?
It was really tough, and actually my CEO at the time, to really kind of put some impetus behind me, said you've got 1 month to make it work or you're out, right? You've got 1 month, make some money.
Yeah.
If you don't make any money, that's it, you're done. And it wasn't a case of go back to the role you were doing.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm taking a risk.
Yeah.
You
All or
gotta
nothing.
make it work. So I think WTF1 had never worked with a brand. It
Yeah,
never
that's what
had
I mean.
a commercial deal.
Because you couldn't go back on previous, we converted this much on this, because you were
Absolutely
just
not.
starting afresh, right?
Yeah, all you had was a dream, a vision, and we did have solid numbers. We could say on average we would get this per piece of content or whatever. So the first place, obviously, I think it makes sense for a lot of people, was that the current clients I already had that had a crossover into motorsport, I went to them first. So I think it was a Shell, probably, which is still one of the biggest clients I work with at the moment. I still do a lot of business with those guys. And I think a lot of that has to do with the relationship that I've built, but also the ability that, the content that we've created with them. They've always been massively happy with. They know that I'm pretty easy to work with. So yeah, I think I went to them, and it took some time, and I almost got to the deadline with nothing. Honestly, the amount of
7-day weeks.
tears I cried, sleepless nights I had, thinking this is it, this is all over. My dream is being dashed, and I'm not going to get to live it out. And I think a day or two before my deadline, they sent over a 15K partnership, which was a punt. They were taking a punt.
Yeah.
And then I had I just networked like mad. So I reached out to people that I knew were working in F1, and I said, look, I'm representing this brand. And the amazing thing was, actually, a lot of the feedback I got was, oh, amazing, we've been looking for who to contact. We've wanted to work with this brand.
Yeah.
There's just never been anybody to go to, never any contact. So all of a sudden, it then turned into, after a lot of grafting, it then turned into like a much easier sell because there was no competitors.
I was about to say you were kind of the first.
Yeah.
Realistically, that was social media.
First OG people like with like a big YouTube following and like social following and using personalities that had nothing to do with the inner sanctum of Formula One. It was like fan-led content.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I mean, seeing how many more people in the industry there are now, like you guys, people that are big on TikTok that I feel a bit old, to be honest. But it's amazing to see them. Like I saw, I was out in Zandvoort working with Shell again.
Yeah.
And Lissy McIntosh was out there, and her trajectory has been insane.
She's killing it. Yeah.
And she still came over to me, and I'm like, girl, you're way bigger than me now. Like I'm a nobody. Like I guess forward facing. I think a lot of things is that I've got this weird role where I'm forward facing and I've got my own following, but most of my job is like orchestrating behind the scenes.
Yes.
So you don't get to see a lot of what I do. But I'm also like this personality. So
Your
it's like a weird one.
Because you were there at the start, I feel like it's one of those
like
things,
I'm the grandmother of like F1 media. Is that what you're saying?
Nanny Jess.
Yeah, Nanny Jess.
All right, you lot, don't forget to give us a follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And while you're at it, give us a 5-star rating. Trust me, it really does help us out.